now recording. We are now recording, and I will go ahead and take the roll call. Member Marchant?
Here. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Member Perham?
Here.
Member Reed?
Here.
And Member Crowder?
Here.
Okay, and you have a quorum. And let the record reflect right now, we do not have members Hagee, Hunter, or Wynn on the line. And I'll let you know when they join.
Okay, perfect. And Madam Clerk, would you read the announcement, please?
Yes, I will. This meeting is live streamed and temporarily closed to in-person public participation. The clerk's office is in the process of hosting hybrid public meetings that will provide board members and members of the public with the option to participate in the meeting either in person or remotely. Thank you for your patience and support. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2501 to leave your contact information. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be contacted by phone and transferred into the meeting to make a public comment. And you can always send your written comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net, and your comments will be routed to the board and filed in the record. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jim Crowder, and I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. I'm the chair for the Cosumnes Community Planning Advisory Council, also known as the CPAC. The CPAC members are volunteer citizens appointed by the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. The council shall be advisory only to county agencies. The purpose of the CPAC is to encourage citizen participation in the planning processes, provide local forums to develop and propose community goals and objectives, to serve as a local sounding board for new proposals offered by county staff and to assist the county planning agencies and the Board of Supervisors in carrying out approved community plans and the county's general plan. Function of the CPAC may include updating community goals and plans, develop and propose community improvement programs, review and comment upon proposed amendments to general plans, specific plans, zoning changes, conditional use permits, and related zoning matters. Advisory recommendations are forwarded to hearing bodies, including the zoning administrator, the subdivision review committee, the county planning commission, and the board of supervisors. Our meetings are always open to the public. Courtesy notices are mailed to property owners and occupants within 500 feet of the project based on the address record and posted on the county's website. Madam Clerk, what do we have on the agenda tonight?
And I'd like to let the record reflect that you also have Member Hunter who has joined us.
Okay.
And for your first item, this is a Grant Line East Use Permit Amendment. This is located south of the California Prairie City off Highway Vehicle Park in the Cosumnes community, and the request is for a use permit amendment.
Okay, and then county staff person, are they going to do the presentation first, or is
Yes. Mark, can you hear us?
Yeah, this is Mark McClenny with Office of Planning and Environmental Review. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So yeah, the project is for the Grant Line East. It's an active mining site, about 445 acres, and the request is to extend the mining by 25 years to July 15th, 2046. No other aspects of the project are changed. The mitigation measures to the environmental document are still in effect. All the conditions of approval are still in effect, except for the one that's being revised, are still in effect. It's very similar to a couple other projects that's been through yours, like the Stone Ridge Quarry, that was just essentially a extension of time. That's exactly what this is. No aspects of the project are changing. The difference with this is currently an active mine. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Yeah, what year was this?
It's John Merchant. Let me ask you this. When you say active mine, I know they've been supplying dirt to the connector. Beyond that, are they doing anything else?
Well, it's an active mine site, meaning the use permit was effectuated and they have mined out of there. I'll let the Tykert representatives speak to currently if they're actually, currently mining the site. I mean, it's an active mine, is in the fact that the use permits all effectuated and they can mine whenever they choose. And I know they've mined in the past. I don't know if currently they're actually pulling rock out of there. I don't know if they are, but the Tykert reps could confirm that for us.
When was the permit first granted?
Hello?
When was this permit first granted?
I don't know if I have all the background. The use permit we're amending is from 2008, and I believe there was a one prior to that as well.
Okay, can the Tykert rep answer that question?
Yes, this is Justin Stein. I'm the Tykert project manager for Grant Line East. I can go back and answer both those questions. So the original conditional use permit was approved in 1997, and following an addition to the CUP happened in 2008. And what is regarded as active on the site, Mark is correct. The site is considered active under the fact that the permit is still in use. However, no material is being pulled out of the site. It's only being used to pond excess water from the plant site.
Okay, so you're ponding water from the plant site. You're not currently taking material out, correct?
That is correct.
And the water ponding is from what project?
It is connected to our Grant Line plant, which is right on Grant Line Road, and that is tied to our Grant Line West, city of Rancho Cordova, and that gets conveyed over to the plant, and the plant is there by zone. And so part of that water gets Grant Line East and is used to reclaim some of the old ponds, build up the material.
Okay, so you're using the Grant Line East pit to store to store your dewater from the Grant Line West pit and selling that material from the Grant Line West pit, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The site is partially mined. It is a lot of dredger tailings, the old gold dredger tailings. Some of them have been mined out, and that's what's being filled up. And then some of the tailings are still unmined on the ground.
Okay, so when did you start? When were the two mines communicating, or were they on the same permit?
They're under different permits. The Grant Line East site hasn't been actively mined in a long time. It's used more as a blending source as we look to use other properties that are other than Grant Line West, as some of them don't have some of the material that Grant Line East does.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with the difference between the Grant Line East and the Grant Line West. Is the Grant Line East there right near White Rock Road at Grant Line?
Yeah, so Grant Line West is in. Is there a way I could present my screen?
That's okay. I can't see it anyway.
Okay. So Grant Line West is kind of out of Gold Dredge Way, south of White Rock Road. And it goes underneath the Grant Line Road to the Grant Line plant. So it's on the west side of Grant Line plant, as Grant Line East is right on the east side in Sacramento County.
Okay, so they're in close proximity, but they are on different parcels and they are different permits, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and how many tons per year are you currently pulling out of the Grant Line West side?
So I think tonnages are a little proprietary, but I think we do our entire broad production out of the Grant Line plant using Grant Line West. So it is a significant amount to run the plant.
Okay, well, all right. Well, several years ago when we were dealing with the hard rock mines that Teichert was permitting and granted, and that whole process, we wound up being able to extract or propose a cents per ton fee to put into our community in the jurisdiction of the Cosumnes CPAC for improvements in community projects. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Back in 97 and earlier, when the permits were being used, nobody had thought of that. When we started talking about the hard rock mines, it seemed like an extraordinarily popular item to add to the in order to give back to our community and the communities that are affected by all the truck traffic and the dust and the noise and the inconveniences that are provided to the community at the benefit of Teichert and other operators. Without going into too much detail, I'd like to propose to this board that we make as a condition of renewing this permit for this and the other, the Grant Line West project, to add a cents per ton, or since it's been operating for 25 years or so without any benefit to the community, that we add $1 per ton fee that's payable to the fund that then the mechanism that was set up for the community.
Jim, this is John. Can I comment on that?
You bet.
I thought I might be the only one left alive that remembered those negotiations, but evidently I am not.
No, well, I proposed it originally.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to finish because I was wondering if you were really going to talk about cents per ton. And it seems in that introduction that we were talking about complementary use. In other words, we're servicing one site with another. And it seems that was never discussed in those initial discussions, and I'm very much in agreement with your statement that maybe it's time that cents per ton agreement becomes active, and maybe it should be in conjunction with approval of an extension of the permit. I'm with you 100%.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my point. And being that millions of tons of material have gone out of those two plants, and one is being used to benefit the other. I know the Teichert rep and the county mining rep, they're probably rolling their eyes right now, and I get it. But at some point in time, you got to start sending things back to the community.
Yes, Mark.
Over.
Mark, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I have something to say. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good catch on the cents per ton. As part of the DA agreements with all of the mines, there's a provision in the DA that has what's called a construction market equalizer, whereas if any mine gets a less rigorous amount of, say, cents per ton, then every other mine would get the same thing. So for this mine, we're working with county council on how to do the wording, but there is a cents per ton component that they will pay into. Now, with the two quarries, Tykert Quarry and the Stone Ridge Quarry, since they were a lot bigger mining operations, they had that component of the cents per ton that also gave to the Cosumnes CPAC. In the other mines that we've done that are regular surface mines, we have not done the CPAC component, but just the cents per ton. So the cents per ton will be part of this as per the DAs.
Well, differentiate between a regular surface mine and a surface mine that doesn't require blasting. I mean, is that the criteria to which you would deny us money? Yeah.
We were kind of
okay. So one is far easier to pull the aggregate from, and the other one is quite a bit harder to pull the material from. So it seems to me there would be a lot more fat in your P&Ls for the quote regular surface mines. And again, you've been since '97. It seems like this would be a good time for us for you to give back to the community and contribute to the community that Tykert has been so well able to profit from. That coupled with all the black sand that's pulled out in your mining process, it would certainly seem that it would be easier to do that than fight it on us. I mean, over.
Mark, I have a question for you. This is Jim Crowder. I spoke with Fred Payton this weekend, and he was giving me the background with what Jim just brought up. Fred told me he was under the impression that Tykert was already paying over the last, since '97, was already contributing to that cent per ton. Is that correct?
No, the cents per ton is kind of recent. I think some of the payments started. Like I said, I'm not at my office. Don't have all my computer records. But I think they started a couple of years ago with Tykert has made payments and Granite as well.
Okay. Well, I can tell you too, Fred was pretty adamant about making sure that Tykert does contribute to a cost per tonnage, well, cent per ton, or if it's going to be higher, whatever it's going to.
Chair Crowder,
Yeah.
This is Matt Kiesling with Tykert representation.
Yes, Matt.
I just want to clarify, Tykert, so as Mark mentioned, as part of the cents per ton, which this CPAC was actually instrumental in establishing with the quarries, when the quarries came through, what the county then did was created what's called the Construction Materials Market Equalizer Area Map, which effectively took the entire eastern sector of Sacramento County and said for every aggregate mine that's approved in this area going forward, we will expect a cents per ton. And you will all be required to pay cents per ton on materials removed from here at an equivalent rate, right? And so it applies across the board now to actually all mining operations moving forward. And so, as Mark mentioned, the county has been in discussions with us because Grant Line East is within the market equalizer area. And so the county has talked to us and said, because you're seeking an extension, we would like you to now accept the cents per ton. And I think, as Mark mentioned, all we're trying to work out now is, will it be done through a DA private contract, or will it be applied to us as a condition of approval? Regardless of which one, Tykert is amenable to accepting cents per ton as an obligation on Grant Line East.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Jim, it's John.
Yes.
Let me refine the question here. And I appreciate that statement. But I'm trying to understand at this point in time and I'm not sure I'm naming the right site at this point. The Grant Line East, is that the one on the Scott Road White Rock? Is that Grant Line East?
No. Grant Line East is at White Rock. It's south of the intersection of Grant Line and White Rock Road. It's just south of the off-road vehicle park.
Okay, just south of it. So now I'm still confused. is it the one, if you're coming up to Scott Road, is it the one as you approach the end of Scott Road, is it the one on your right? Or is it the one further down the White Rock Road?
I want to say it's the one on the right-hand side, John, where you're heading, when you're
Okay.
heading.
Is it the one that essentially is across the street from the Stonehouse Quarry? Or I just want to make sure when I'm using a name, I'm identifying the right location.
So I believe that is referencing the Tyker Quarry on Scott Road. The Grant Line East is kind of in between Grant Line Road and Scott Road. It is not very visible from a kind of either.
Okay. So the quarry that's on the east side of Scott Road is in the one closest to what is now being built as the next segment of the connector.
Mm-hmm.
Is that site active? And in fact, as it was previously discussed, are they now providing the topsoil cover or soil fill to the connector from that location?
That is a no to both of them. There was a proposed borrow pit. I believe,
Yes, there was. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
There was a proposed borrow pit to allow the dirt at the quarry site to be utilized for the connector, but it was never completed, and the connector is not utilizing fill material from Tyker Quarry. And similarly, Tyker Quarry, though approved by the county, has not yet become an active mine site.
Okay, but what you said in your opening, am I making a correct statement that there is some interchange between those two quarries and one is servicing or complementing the other? Is there any activity between the two?
So I think the confusion is there are three mine sites out here. There is a mine site in the city of Rancho Cordova, which is to the west of Grant Line Road, and that is Grant Line West. And it is processed at the Grant Line plant, which is right at Grant Line and White Rock, effectively, just to the south of that intersection.
Okay.
There's Grant Line East, which is just east of that plant, which is what we're seeking the extension of tonight. The material at Grant Line East is used to blend with the material that comes out of Grant Line West, and is also used as a location in reclaiming Grant Line East. We utilize it with the plant to accept the water. And eventually, when the quarry opens up, which is even further to the east, a portion of that rock will be processed at the Grant Line plant, and material from this site will be blended with that material as well, potentially, to make certain products. So there is an interrelation in that all of those sites are processed at the same processing plant. But as of right now, the Tyker Quarry is not open. It is still in its native state.
The Hard Rock Quarry.
That's correct.
Hey, John, this is Dan Reed. Fred just called me a minute ago. He's been on, but he can't get unmuted. And so could we have the CPAC secretary identify him? I could give you the last four of his phone number.
Were you saying Mr. Hagee is trying to get on?
Yeah, he said he could only listen. His numbers, the last four digits are 3372.
Mr. Hagee, can you say something now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Well, we're just going to leave your mic. We'll leave all the members' mics unmuted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, I've been listening, and you guys seem to cover it pretty good, but what I worry about is the conveyor belts going from the Tigard Quarry to the Tigard East plant and becoming mixed and not being part of the tonnage, the cents per ton. How do they physically measure those up if they're mixing them all up?
So both Grant Line East and Tyker Quarry would go directly to the Grant Line plant, and there's There's ways to measure which comes over which part of the conveyor, as both conveyors would meet up there. They can split it out in between those two, and both would pay cents per ton as it leaves the plant.
And as we're talking, is there a graduated fee, or does the cents per ton fluctuate from by the amount of tonnage extracted? Or are you paying a flat fee, cents per ton?
This is Mark, and there's a table, I don't have it with you, but it's based upon the amount they take out per year, and I think the year of mining. And I believe as the years of mining increase, the cents of ton increases, and obviously the more amount of material they take out, that would increase as well.
Okay, and you don't have the table in front to answer, so you could answer the question because
I'm not at my office and I don't have it with me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it's the standard fee that every mine pays. That's why there's the construction market equalizer. This is what we use to enable everybody to pay the same. Because if we let one pay the least, then everybody's going to pay the least. So we watch this pretty closely to make sure they all pay the same amount and are on an equal footing with one another.
Do you have anything
This is Fred Hagee. When this thing was proposed to us, a cents per ton, prior to any equalizer, we received so much from Tiger, and Stone Ridge went a little more with their contribution to us, and De Silva Gates was to add, which was the Barton Ranch, was to add a higher amount than that. And it seems like this equalizer came after the development agreement went through. When can you separate the two when this equalizer agreement showed up? Because that's not what I have in my files.
It showed up in the DAs, the development agreements. I wasn't in the mining program when these things were first started, so
Chair,
all of them are the same.
Chair,
Yes.
Chair
Yes.
Crowder, this is Matt Kiesling again with Tykert. And if
Yeah,
it
Matt.
would be helpful for Commissioner Heggie, I'm actually staring at the cents per ton exhibit that has the chart, but I can also respond to the comment I think that Commissioner Heggie's making. So the way the cents per ton funding works is it is an escalated fee amount. The fee goes up as the years go on. So there's one set rate for the first 5 years, and then years 6 to 10, years 11 to 15, 16 to 20, and so on, and it escalates over time. There's also an escalator as you go up in tonnages. So 0 to 2 million tons, you have a set amount. From 2 million to 3 million tons, that increases. And then between 4 and 5, it increases. Now, I believe what Commissioner Heggie's referencing is, though the cents per ton funding is equal across the board, the way in which the funding is split, I believe, was worked out differently on each of the DAs. The Tykert DA was established that 10% of the money generated in cents per ton would come back to the Cosumnes CPAC, and the remainder would go to various nonprofits throughout the county of Sacramento. I believe that what happened with Stone Ridge Quarry is they committed more like 20% back to Cosumnes and 80% to other charities. And it sounds like the CPAC was interested in seeing an even greater percentage of the cents per ton coming back to Cosumnes from the final quarry. But the overall cents per ton is the same from all operators. The only thing that differed was how much of that stayed in the Cosumnes community versus was spent elsewhere within the county of Sacramento.
That's what we don't want to lose sight of. We don't want to get gobbled up as time drags on here and new people come along to where, because there's a whole hierarchy to make the decisions on where the money goes, I believe. Tiger had a representative in the decision where the money goes, and Stone Ridge did the same thing. I believe Angelo Scoplis and his wife were part of the decision on his, and I don't remember who was part of the decision from Tiger. because John Taylor is the one who proposed this. Him and Jim Wiley, as your representatives, is the one who came up with this whole cents per ton back to the community. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle as time goes on.
Fred, we appreciate that. And just to clarify, this is Matt Kiesling from Taylor and Wiley. So I'm sitting in the office with John and Jim's office. We're definitely aware of the obligation and the commitment that were made as we went through the quarry process. And the county is as well. They brought up the cents per ton to us a long time ago. I think it's probably just not reflected in your staff report tonight, because there's still that question as to whether it will be a condition of approval or through some sort of DA.
Matt, so a
Thanks,
question
Matt.
for you. So who will be
Yeah,
involved
it's
in-
not in the paperwork that I received. But I didn't. Once a DA is passed, I can't see how it can be revoked in any way because it's a contract, right?
Right.
So Matt, who would be involved in the decision making this time around for working out the cent per ton price?
Okay.
I'd like to defer to Mark on that one, on what the cents per ton price would be. But if you're talking about where the cents per ton is spent, that really comes down between a negotiation between the county and the applicants. So if you all have an opinion about it, you could definitely probably wrap that into your recommendation.
I believe we had set forth a committee that would that was the CPAC, and then if something happens to where the CPACs get eliminated, we were still allowed to form a committee in our area that would be part of the decision. We went through a whole thing with Mark on that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and this is Mark, and that's still all in effect.
Okay.
That was for that was the cents per ton allocation procedure that was, for some reason in the DAs they didn't have this, and we had to go to get it settled out to how the money was going to be divvied up. So that is done. That's a complete document. For this project, the cents per ton obligation will be the same as any other operator in the county, based upon the chart that Matt was describing, by what year they're in and the amount of rock they're taking out. They'll get charged the same fee as everybody else.
So this is Bob Hunter call. I just wanted to check in. So the cents per ton will be the same, but what about the percentage that goes to the Cosumnes CPAC? That was at 10% or?
Well, that like Matt was saying, if you want to add something to that, because that was part of the DA for the quarries. For just the two hard rock quarries, that had the CPAC component. No other mine that we've done. The Vulcan didn't do it. Granite's Vineyard South didn't do it. They were just the cents per ton. Now, I wasn't around at the start of all this, so I believe since the quarries were such a different way to mine and had some longer periods of time, especially the Stone Ridge one, perhaps that's why the monies went through the CPAC. I wasn't around for that, but if you wanted to somehow get the cents per ton for this mine,
I would vote to try and attribute the same 10% to the Cosumnes area and CPAC.
Mark, it's John Merchant. Let me ask you, the chart that you're saying that we're not, does that table escalate by year to a point that would cover the extension period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't have it in front of me. Matt Kiesling has it in front of him.
Yeah,
and it's in all the DAs, it's in all the mining ones. I'm sorry I don't have it. I could email you guys the thing tomorrow if you'd like.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned so much with understanding all the numbers inside the table. I was just curious if the table itself extended through a period that would cover this extension.
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's one for the Stone Ridge which goes to 100 years. So yeah, this is 25, so it's definitely covered.
And
Yeah,
is there a formula that, and we may have discussed this 100 years ago, is there a formula that escalates year by year, or how does the chart escalate? If we're talking about an extension of this particular project, is that compatible with inflation, or is it just I can't remember how that worked.
That's a good. I wasn't involved in the creating of this chart or the cents per ton. I don't know how you just the table that shows you what fees they would pay. I assume there was some sort of equation to to deal with inflation and in the future. But like I said, these are all the same, and if we change one, we've got to change all of them. So far, there's 5 different EAs out there, so I don't believe the cents per ton fees or the amount that they're going to pay will change. Because we're going to keep them all the same, so everybody's on the the same level playing field with the cents per ton fees.
This is Fred again. I have one off-the-wall question that I wanted to throw out there because Tiger didn't take off their fill dirt for the connector, right? So they didn't touch the aggregate mine. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Type of quarry, and they didn't. Yeah, this is a.
They did not do that after we approved that it would be all right. So my question
withdrew the project.
Okay, my question is it possible for them, if they let their mine expire, to turn around and under their sphere of influence ask to put houses there? Is it possible to say, well, we're not going to mine it, we want to build houses, therefore increasing Folsom's sphere of influence into our area?
Are you asking on the Tykert Quarry site or the Grant Line East site? Because either one, they're both
the Grant Line East site will be running out of aggregate, and then will probably be removed, right? I mean, I heard they were out of rock right now, so they're just basically a mixing plant.
If this use permit amendment is approved, it will allow Tykert 25 more years until the year 2046 to mine on the Grant Line East site. They state there's still rock there that they can mine, and they do it the way they want to do it. So it's their mine. They would only mine when they have the product to sell.
I understand that, but my concern is the quarry site not being developed and therefore ending up being houses. That's of some issue. When they cut that big V in the bank over there, it looks like they're going to make a pretty big intersection right through there where Bidwell keeps going past White Rock. And they wouldn't have cut that big V in there for no reason. There's evidently a road going in there.
I believe that's part of the connector too, so maybe they're just getting that intersection ready for that, because I think that connector goes through there as well. And as far as the Tykert Quarry,
no, the connector doesn't go through that, doesn't go south from White Rock. But that intersection that they increased was supposed to be for the quarries. That if one of the quarries doesn't build itself, then does Stonegate get stuck with it? It's all in our areas. The reason I'm bringing it up, we assume there's going to be a quarry there. I'm just
There's supposed to be 2 quarries there.
Chair Crowder, I know. If you'd like, just from Tykert's perspective, just to give you an overview, I hear Commissioner Heggie's concern. first of all, Tykert has full intention of moving forward with the quarry. Tykert is not interested in letting the quarry entitlements expire. We are working diligently not to allow them to expire. So it is not our intent to allow those to expire and to try to pivot into housing. I can assure you that. Furthermore, if we did, the site is located beyond the urbanized area for the county of Sacramento. And so the county would not allow housing to be developed out there. And before Folsom could ever develop housing out there, they would have to go through an annexation process by which not just Folsom, but the county and representatives from other jurisdictions would have to allow them to annex land into their city. So to do that hypothetical would require a huge amount of entitlement work and some land acquisition by the city of Folsom before it could occur. And I'll just reiterate again Tykert's intention is absolutely to continue to pursue a quarry at that site.
Will they be asking for an extension also? They're in their 25 years, so they've already used up 10, right? At the quarry.
For the Tykert quarry, they have not asked for the work authorization permit, so they have not started any mining. So the clock for the 25 years to mine has not started. There's some issues with the expiration of the work authorization permit in order to obtain that, and that's what Tykert is working with, a completely different project than what's before you. And that'll be brought before you in the near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, and short answer is yes, continuing to pursue the right to mine at the quarry site, not do anything else.
Appreciate that. But Jim, I didn't want to interrupt what you were proposing. I got us off track. I apologize for that.
No worries.
Yeah, Jim, do you have a motion?
Oh, well, I would move to approve the permit or the request as presented. However, I would like to increase I would like to put a condition that the Cosumnes CPAC fund receive 20% of the cents per ton to get in line with the Barton project.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Fred, you're the second then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Well, then we have a first, we have a second. Any more comments?
Oh, also to clarify, and I don't want to amend the motion if I don't have to, but does that would include the Grant Line West mine as well? If we're going to extend it for the Grant Line East mine,
The Grant Line West mine is in a different jurisdiction. I don't have any jurisdiction over to apply conditions to it. This is just for the Grant Line East project. I believe the Grant Line West is in the city of Rancho.
Okay. Well then, but it's taking water from the Grant Line West project, correct?
I don't think it's water. I think they're taking aggregate and they're processing it at the plant.
Okay. Well, anything that comes out of the west plant over to the east plant and leaves the east plant.
The east mining is a mining site, and then right next to it is the Tykert plant. They're two separate things. So
okay.
We can only get them from the dirt we're getting out of Sacramento County. I don't have any way to get the Grant Line East part of it, even if they're running the rock through their plant.
Okay, so the only site that of the three sites, the Tykert plant and the Tykert Grant Line West, are both out of the Cosumnes jurisdiction, and only the Grant Line East is in the Cosumnes jurisdiction.
Grant Line East, yes, the project before you, and then right next to them, to the west, right fronting on Grant Line Road is the Tykard plant, the Grant Line plant.
Yeah,
So
understood.
those are both in your jurisdiction, but the plant's on M2 property. It's an industrial use that doesn't need a use permit. It's an outright use, so that's not part of this project.
Okay.
Hey, this is Dan Reed. Jim, I got a question about your motion with the 20%. Are you suggesting changing the fee or the cents per ton, or are you referring to the allocation of the cents per ton? Because based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like the cents per ton is uniform across all mining operations in Sacramento County, or at least that was the intent. So is your motion to look at a percentage of the cents per ton that's getting paid? Is that where the 20% is?
Yeah, that would be the percentage of the allocation, not the cents per ton. I'm not sure that we can do anything with the cents per ton at this time. That would be a separate meeting, and what was negotiated down finally once that. You were there when we did all this, right, Danny? There was
no, it was before my time, the main portion of it, but it's come back when we worked on the language, figuring out how we could give suggestions, because as appointed people, we cannot allocate money.
Right. Well, at this point, I may have been a little hasty making my motion here, because it doesn't sound like if they're not pulling any aggregate out of the Grant Line East, and they're only using the Grant Line East, or the primary use of Grant Line East is to complement Grant Line West and the Tykard plant. We need to figure out how we can word it so that we can get the CPAC's pound of flesh, so to speak.
Yeah, and my memory might not be serving me correctly, but I think that part of the discussion was kind of earmarking a percentage that there would be a focus in our area, but not necessarily that we got to say this goes to 4-H scholarships or whatnot.
Correct. Yeah, so that would be the only reason why at this point I would rescind my motion and consult with the rest of the committee to or further discuss the verbiage to have this benefit the CPAC and the cents per ton. Because it sounds like right now they're not. If we were charging a cents per ton for whatever comes into the site or goes out, then we could do that. Charge them by the cubic foot of water or the acre foot of water or whatever it is, because they're gaining benefit from that site, complementing the other sites. Does that make sense to anybody else?
This is John. It does to me. I think I'm interested, in if the site is dormant, then I understand that there should be no cents per ton that's revenue that is generated out of it. If it's complementing another site or it's in use for any practical purpose, I think that somebody ought to be coughing up the cents per ton. I just don't. There's a disconnect here that I'm just sensing that, if we have three sites complementing each other, then if they divert everything into one site, are we getting money once, or are we getting it three times?
Right. Mr. Chair,
maybe
at this time, I'd like to what's the procedure for rescinding the motion? Just withdrawing it?
Yeah, you can just withdraw it.
I'd like to withdraw it and come up with, everybody help come up with something more appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish here.
Chair, I would just like to clarify, there will be material coming out of this site. This site is what we're asking for is 25 more years to mine the remainder of this piece of property.
Okay.
I think the confusion is that construction material is made up of a variety of rock of different sizes, sands, pebbles, right? So you have, depending on what you're producing, you have different needs of what type of aggregate you put into it. Right? So some of our mines may produce larger rock or a certain type of rock that needs to be blended with sand. Or we may be producing large boulders from one site, but we need smaller pebbles from another site to blend with it to make the exact construction product type. And so what we're saying with this site that's before you tonight, Grant Line East, is we're not primarily mining it right now as a primary source, but we are asking for the right to continue to mine it all the way through its entirety and take all of the tonnage out of that site over the next 25 years. But it is primarily to blend with material coming from other sites. Right now, it's being blended with material that comes from Grant Line West. And when the quarry comes online in the future, it will be likely blended with the material coming from the quarry. But either way, we will be mining rock from this site, and we will be paying cents per ton on the rock that we take out of this site. And so that initial motion, which was they should pay cents per ton, and of that cents per ton, 20% of it should come back to the Cosumnes CPAC, that would make sense for what we're doing. We're proposing to produce material, and then the material that comes out, we would be effectively taxed on, and then a portion of that would come back to the Cosumnes area.
Well, question for
the
you.
explanation.
Yeah, so maybe I'm missing something. When you're blending the material, are you paying that cent per ton on it, or is that not taking place at that time?
The cents per ton is factored before that, right? So the cents per ton is charged by where the material is mined from. We're not paying it going out the door, we're paying it as the material comes in. So as Justin said, right, material from Grant Line East is conveyed to the plant. Material from quarry will eventually be conveyed to the plant. The quarry material is weighed before it's processed. The Grant Line East material is weighed before it's processed. We pay cents per ton on what we're pulling out, extracting from the ground at the various locations. So it's not what goes out of the door after the plant, it's what we're pulling out of the ground at the various approved mining sites.
Okay.
So we could make an amendment that we would like the same cents per ton to the Cosumnes that would come out of the quarry, out of the east mine. Because you're already taking cents per ton, we just want a piece of it. Would that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were proposing originally, but there's value added in this particular mine because they're using the ponds as cisterns, and because we have water is such a big issue here, I'm thinking that there should be some way to get that water back over to the Cosumnes aquifer and use that water for recharge of and give the Slough House RCD or the Omo Chumney's Hartnell Water District proviance over that water. Thinking outside the box here. Yes.
We should see if that water is the stuff that they're pumping out of Aerojet because it's tainted from all the years, and then it's going back into the river. So they're just emptying out bad water into the quarry versus we don't want it into our aquifer if it's got.
That's true. Taggart reps, any word on the contamination of that water, given its proximity to, what is it, Area 51 or what have you, Zone 51?
Yeah, so the water that's at the plant site is not coming from Grant Line West. The water that's at the site that Justin mentioned earlier is actually a tool that Tykert uses to reclaim sites. We have a slurry, so when the rock comes over, it's covered in dirt and mud at times, and so it's washed on site. And the dirt that comes off of it is a slurry that's then put into ponds, and the dirt settles out. What it effectively does is it takes the holes that the mining leaves behind, and it slowly raises the elevation back up. It's actually a technique that's used for reclamation of the site. So when Justin mentioned the fact that we were using them as ponds, those are effectively silt ponds that are reclaiming the site and bringing it back up to grade.
So
And I'll add one more
coming
thing.
out of the ground, is that good water? Do you have wells that's pumping water out, or do you get city water, or what's the source of the water?
I'll add one more thing to that. When the water gets pumped into those ponds as the silt settles out, a lot of it gets recycled back into the plant, recycles through. I believe I can look into those wells on the site, but there's a lot of testing that gets done on any of the wells in that area, and none of that would be.
I'm sorry, there are lots of what? I'm sorry, there are lots of what's in associated with those wells?
There's a lot of monitoring wells to determine that any water in the area is contaminated or not, and I believe there's a group that goes out and tests them frequently.
I believe that Aerojet has a series of monitoring wells all throughout that area, so they can see if the plume is moving or not. Right. So the wells that we're using are historical ag wells on site, but whether the contamination plume is moving off of the Aerojet site to our wells is monitored by, I believe, Aerojet, with reporting to both the state and the county.
You don't even know whether your water's any good?
Well, we're not the operations managers at that plant. We're on the entitlement side. So we didn't anticipate that question, I'll just say, and so we didn't look into the ag. But I know that if there was any indication that the wells were going to be tainted, that we would be required to shut them down. The county wouldn't allow us to continue to pump from a contaminated well.
When you say you're using historic ag wells, when Tygert obtained that property, did they take and enlarge those wells to meet the needs of their plant, or did they use the original casings and well permits that were, or even if there was permits back then in the good old days, to put the new pumps in? When you say historic,
Yeah.
that means something, I believe, totally different to me than it does just, that's where a well was, but we pulled the casing, we pulled the 8-inch casing and put in a 24-inch casing and a 300 horsepower motor. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I was not using historic as a term of art. And to be honest, I don't know the background of the wells that were utilized for that plant. Actually, this site was entitled by a different entity. Tykert actually acquired it about 10 years after it was entitled. And so we somewhat inherited this site when we purchased it. So I don't necessarily know the history of the wells, but when the project first goes through the entitlement process, all of this is analyzed in the environmental documents as it moves forward, as well as sources of water. But I guess back to your original thought, which is there's an ancillary benefit that's being accrued upon the site because we're utilizing it to store water that is otherwise on the Grant Line West mine site. I just wanted to be clear that the water that's at this site is not coming from Grant Line West. It's water that's utilized in reclamation the same way that the mining operators throughout the county utilize drying beds in order to reclaim their sites.
Okay, so the water's coming off of the Tykert plant or Grant Line East to wash aggregate in the plant and then discharged back into the settling ponds of Grantline East.
That is correct. And then recycled back into the plant as well.
Okay. So you actually there's a net gain of material in the form of clay colloid and sand and silt as it precipitates from the slurry, correct? You're putting tonnage back onto Grantline East.
Yeah, as a function of reclamation.
Yeah, as a function of reclamation, right. Yeah, that answered my question. Go ahead.
Well, Jim, are you satisfied with the water issue?
Yeah, I think so. It's that was kind of a non-starter. Sorry to waste everybody's time there.
No. So are you ready for another motion? You want to try that again, Jim?
Hey, I have another comment. I think the Stone Ridge, I believe rather than 20, I think it was 25% versus 20% for the Cosumnes area.
I don't have it right in front of me, Bob, so I guess you're whatever you say.
That's what I was.
More is always better.
Mark should have that data.
You have that, Mark, at all? 25?
No, I don't have it with me. I don't remember what their allocation was.
This is John. Is it the object then that we make the two of them equal?
That would make sense, Jim.
This is Dan. So could we effectively make a motion that says we approve on a condition that it acquiesces to the same terms on cents per ton allocations as other respective mines in the area?
Well, yeah, as long as we don't.
Or do we need to be more specific?
I think you need to say Stone Ridge.
And I think Stone Ridge was 20. So we have to be careful we don't lose 10% because they will lose us 10%.
Got it. But ultimately, the actual cents per ton that they're paying that's going into a fund isn't going to change. We're just making sure that the allocation that is getting earmarked for the Cosumnes area remains or is at that 20%, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Dan, would you like Dan, you want to make that motion then?
Well, I don't have the numbers, so if we need to have the specific numbers, I think that that's going to be important. And I wasn't around for the original negotiation, so.
This is Mark. Why don't you just, since we don't remember, just say they have the same allocation as the Stone Ridge?
Hey, Mark.
Stone Ridge Quarry, yeah.
Mark, sorry, this is Matt Kiesling. I actually pulled up your old staff report, and Stone Ridge Quarry was 25%.
Okay.
Okay.
So I kind of thought that was correct.
Thank you, Bob.
Then they should be the same. They should be the same.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Motion restated. Are you ready?
Go.
Move to approve as presented with the condition that the percentage of the cents per ton allocation be equal to the Stone Ridge amount, which to our best knowledge is 25%.
For the Cosumnes area.
For the Cosumnes area. Thanks, Bobby.
There you go. Thank you. Okay. Perfect, Jim. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And Jim, if with the second, then I just have one more item of discussion.
Okay.
And I have been, since the beginning of this, Fred can even tell me when we started it, I have not been clear on the agreement that gravel trucks would or would not use the Scott Road going north and south. I understand that there is a separate entrance coming out of the quarry that meets what will be, I guess, the connector or what is now the White Rock. But I'm unclear if an independent carrier is picking up in there that he has the right to use the Scott Road to go south to deliver his product. Does anybody know the answer to that?
I think all that the Tyker Quarry comes out of that road into the White Rock Scott Road. I don't know that anything goes north or goes south that way. I think it comes out of it that way.
Well, I'm confused by the fact that I use the Scott Road and in spurts I see gravel trucks on the road. And
they may be putting an intersection there for the trucks that eventually will be coming out of there.
no, these are ones coming towards Rancho Murrieta, not going the other way.
Oh wow, okay.
John, this is Fred. It was our understanding in the meetings that there would be some local trucks that would have to head that way, especially if there were jobs there on Scott Road or in the area. So there was never a taboo about it per se, that anything in writing, but it was felt that full trucks weren't supposed to go on the road. But if there was some empty ones or somebody had to go home or something like that, it wasn't the end of the world if one of them drove on that road. So it's hard to say that we do have cattle trucks down there and other heavy vehicles.
I think that fence to the east of that, the Tyker's property, that's the end of their property, right at Scott Road. So that maybe it's off of their property that's maybe going south.
They weren't supposed to haul full loads out of the quarry. They were supposed to use the conveyor belt.
Right.
We've noticed that some people that are doing the connector routes, maybe they're independent truckers that are going home to the Jackson area. What our concern was, mine, since I live on the road, is that some of these trucks are coming out of the Tigard plant up at Amador and then coming down that way to get to the connector. And usually these are independent guys. I don't see Tigard signs on them. So it's like an unenforceable type of situation. They're supposed to not do it, but who's going to pay somebody to sit out there and check? So I don't know. It's a gray area, John. I don't have a good answer for it.
Okay.
Motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Bob Hunter.
I think I already gave a second.
Okay. Any more discussion?
No.
I'm good.
Madam Clerk, could you take a vote, roll call vote, please?
Yes, and just for the record, I have Mr. Perham making the motion and Mr. Machant seconding that motion. Member Hagee?
I approve, yes.
Member Hunter?
Yes.
Member Machant?
Yes.
Member Perham?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Aye.
And Member Crowder?
Yes.
And the motion passes with, as a unanimous vote with those members present. Let the record reflect that Member Nguyen is absent. And for your next item, this is the community input on Sacramento County fiscal year 2022-23 budget priorities.
Yeah, hi. Once again, this is Mark McLeany with the Office of Planning and Environmental Review. And so this is for fiscal year 22-23. So not the one we're in or going in, but for the whole thing in advance. So I'll read the little thing. So for fiscal year 2022 through 2023, budget process is designed to increase transparency and to provide an opportunity for public input, as well as have a more robust public engagement process. Sacramento County is seeking input from the county's advisory boards and commissions in order to identify community needs and help determine budget priorities. This feedback will inform the recommendation that will be made to the Board of Supervisors in order to formulate a scientific public opinion poll to help set priorities for the county's budget. Well, I'm supposed to see what your most critical need or priority is.
Sorry, our area?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yep, for the Cosumnes area, what would your identify as a community need to help determine budget priorities?
I'll say it before John Merchant does. What about improving Scott Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Road improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, Slough House Road.
One of the ones that I'd like to specifically include in that is at the end of the Stonehouse Road, that is the extension in facto of the Scott Road. We run on an annual basis 750,000 trips a year up the Scott Road. It's a similar number on the Stonehouse Road. We have $450,000 allocated through a bond issue from the hotel to put a traffic light at Lone Pine Drive. To do that, we need an easement or the county to purchase the property behind the telephone building at the end of the Stonehouse Road so that Stonehouse can be relocated up to that intersection. It is an extremely dangerous situation, magnified by the fact that at 5 o'clock you can have 10 or 12 cars lined up there playing chicken to enter the Jackson Highway. It is an absolute priority. Along with, we could just start with potholes. We could start small. You might fill those on Scott Road. And we could work from there. The condition of our rural roads continues to be, nothing ever happens. So
okay,
that's a big one.
Yep.
Okay. Ooh,
the other one is financial support for emergency evacuation. There's a lot of discussion inside Rancho Murrieta. Matter of fact, a meeting today with Supervisor Frost and the Assembly, Mr. Cooley, about enhancing our ability to leave the area in the event of a flood or a fire, and without getting into the specific details of that, we need some financial support somewhere, whether it be from the county or grants, to make that happen.
Okay.
My priority for the area is twofold. This is Fred.
Mm-hmm.
One, the site down in Wilton that they're trying to decide what to do with, make a park or whatever they're going to do with it. I think it's 97 acres.
Dillard Ranch.
Yeah, the old Dillard Ranch. And
what's the name of the property again?
They can't afford a park. Pardon?
Did you call it Miller Ranch, or what was the name of it?
Dillard.
Dillard.
Okay.
Dillard Ranch. It was an old dairy, and some guy runs cows on it now. And they're trying to divvy it up or do whatever they aren't. But
The
don't
CSD,
understand.
CSD owns it.
Right, but nobody's got any money to build a park or to maintain it, and the county parks department always has all this meeting, and then they don't have any money. So it sits there in oblivion. So I don't know why the condition is they don't sell off 5 or 10 acre parcels, take that money, and then build their park. And then that way they've got some money that actually does some good. That most people in that area don't particularly want some big old park there. But a smaller park to me would be more functional. You still need playing fields a little bit in the area because there's still a lot of youths in the area and they shouldn't have to drive all the way into Elk Grove. And on that same thought, to me, it's the same thing with the high school and the junior high kids. We're trucking them all the way from Marietta, Blue House, Wilton, all these far areas to go all the way into Elk Grove. Maybe there could be an answer, a better answer for the people having to haul their kids all the way in there. And of course, Scott Road, but you're not going to do anything with Scott Road. I'm pretty sure of that.
One of the things we could suggest would be that the county would invest enough money to at least to scope the Scott Road project and come up with a 10-year plan, perhaps a plan that could begin to identify what could be done on a year-by-year basis over a 10-year period, so we could at least get a decent road bed and some turnouts or some shoulders on the road, and in the winter, if it ever does rain again, perhaps counteract the sheeting. It seems to be getting worse over time. I mean, you get a heavy rain now, the road virtually becomes impassable. It's not just the bridge itself, but there are various other spots in the road that in Rancho Murrieta, as they develop Sunrise and Jackson, I mean, we're locked out of an access to service going south. We can't go to Elk Grove. We can't fight the traffic. You're about to add 26 traffic lights over time on the Jackson Highway and urbanize the road and put 50,000 people between Bradshaw and Sunrise. So the only reasonable access we have, either via the connector or via Scott Road, is to the north. And we're over that same period of time. We have 400 approved houses. By the end of a 10-year period, we're going to be at 9,000 people, and we don't have access. I mean, we're lucky. We got a supermarket now, but if you want to go beyond that and access services, the only rational approach is to go to Folsom. So at some point, as that traffic gets to 1 million trips a year, and it will, somebody has to figure out how to deal with the road. And so while you can't deal with it in the short term, you could at least allocate money to plan for it.
I think we need a bunch of meetings in person in order to have these discussions.
Yeah, and
difficult.
Fred, we were successful once before in getting this agendized. I don't know if we have that kind of power anymore. I don't know what got taken away and what didn't. But we could do that in the coming year. Engage Sue Frost and Don in his last official act to maybe have another one of those discussions with DOT to see what we could do. It's just nothing. I mean, and even the maintenance out there now, if it does rain this winter, we're just going to go back to where we were. The road's going to be torn up again.
You got a good point, John.
Okay.
I've wrestled with it for 40 years, and I haven't got any clear picture because the greater and whatever you do with the road, the faster the traffic.
Yeah,
the more
right.
wreck. Seems
Right.
like you almost have to get to the point of putting speed bumps in. And then when you do that, then you've got basically, I don't know what you got, but I noticed that more and more communities around Sacramento, and down around the hospitals, some of those areas, all those streets have speed bumps just because they can't control the traffic.
Part of that discussion really is too that if we can't control the speed or we acknowledge that we can't control it, then at some fixed points along the road, they need to provide us with a way to get off. If some guy's behind me at 5 miles an hour, and I'm not going to go to 65 miles an hour, I need a way to let him go by. And I understand the issue with the turnouts and the garbage collection and all that stuff, but at some point the discussion really needs to come back up again, because nothing ever happens.
Okay, I got all the road stuff. Is that any other needs or priorities that you can think of?
I didn't, just spur of the moment here. I wish I'd had this in my paperwork. We could have.
Well, if you think of
I had a little
anything,
more time to think of it. When do these meetings start? When are these budget things proposed?
What they're doing is they're going through these to the CPACs and stuff and getting the information. And I think that stuff is due maybe September 10th or 15th. And then they're gonna. It appears that they're gonna get this feedback, and then they're gonna make a public opinion poll that they're gonna send out to, I assume, people in the county for their feedback on it. And this is just so that the board's people can get some kind of inkling of what the needs are for the area. So I'll definitely include, the road stuff that you guys have talked about on it. And then, this is for budget year 22-23, so they're really far ahead. So it might be, a complete year from now before they start, sending out the polls and whatnot.
So I know that the budget office plans to return to the Board of Supervisors with some feedback that's collected from all of the boards and commissions, probably early October.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, Mark, if we come up with any other suggestions, we can just email them to you over the next, say, 2 weeks?
Yeah, please do. Yep, that'll work.
And it's okay if we have communications between each other on this because we're not voting on anything. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe so. The clerk can probably let us know for sure. But yeah, I think because this isn't they want your feedback, so it'd be good for you guys to hash it out.
They want the feedback, and ideally it should be conducted at this meeting because you guys are acting as a body, and the feedback should be discussed as a body. So if you do have anything subsequent to that, if you want to send that in writing, and you could just send it to the board clerk at saccounty.net, and we'll be sure to add it into the record.
Okay. So send it to the clerks instead of to Mark then.
Yes, please. You could send it to Mark if you'd like, but you would please copy the clerk. That would be great, and we'll make sure that it gets added into the record. We'll be compiling this information into the format that the budget office had asked, and we'll get everything over by the end of September. That we've asked them to allow us a little bit of extra time because we have so many boards, and they're amenable to that, and then they'll have everything ready and provide some information to the Board of Supervisors in that first week of October.
Okay.
I think we should have an East County windshield replacement fund.
Very good, John.
Would you like me to add that into the record?
Well, I wonder how many. I just wonder, and I've been pretty involved with this connector Scott Road issue for a couple of years, and we have all these quarries that are going to be. I mean, the the traffic, the truck traffic, gravel traffic on those roads, I can't begin to tell you how many thousand trucks that's going to be. And as a result of that, how many thousand windshields are going to be obliterated in the process. I mean, it's already bad. And now you're turning it into a 4-lane high-speed road with all of these trucks full to the brim with an open top, and now authorized to go, 60 miles an hour. So I can't conceive that there will be a windshield left alive by the time this is completed.
John, you're true on that one, because about 4 months ago, thank God I have a good deductible, but about a $650 windshield.
Oh,
My old Honda, I don't even bother anymore. I just leave it.
Somebody turn him in.
All right.
Are we at like the comments part of this? I have one more thing.
Well, how about staff update? Do we have anything there? Mark or Flo?
Chairperson, may I ask for a point of clarification? And I'm sorry if I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I just want to confirm that I could add that into the record for the East County Windshield Replacement Fund. Personally, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only one that thinks of this stuff, but I'm not the only one with broken windshield. So, I mean, it is a reality. I mean, what happens? Do we ever really go head to head with covering those trucks? I mean, we finally got the garbage trucks covered, and maybe it's time at a subsequent CPAC meeting to zero in on the gravel trucks. They don't want to hear it, but I mean, and they don't want to be responsible for the windshields. So what do we do?
Personally, John, I think that's a good idea.
I will be adding this into your minutes, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And I have one additional item for the next meeting. It's like a homework assignment. I understand the application is up now for the for the Barton solar fields. I've had consultants calling me, asking me my opinions on various parts of it. And I guess they're coming to us in September. I was trying to get someone to tell me on the 2,000 acres, how many acres of it they plan to cover with solar, and no one would give me an answer. And evidently the application is up there. I haven't been in there to look for it yet, but hopefully there's a map with it, and maybe we should look at that before we get here next month if they're in fact really coming.
Is it a voting or an informational meeting?
I don't know. I don't know, Fred. They just told me that they were coming, and I didn't ask them, in what format but they are going to be there. I don't even know. Supposedly, I don't know if this is considered development or not. Aren't we supposed to be just getting one shot at these guys? Did that pass or not? One meeting rule. Remember that?
We had the one on Dillard. We voted on that one.
Yeah, well.
That solar field there, we voted on that one.
Yeah, but
that was a one meeting thing, but that was only 100 acres or so.
Yeah, and we would in the old days, we would have repetitive meetings on specific projects, and I believe the board shut us down on that. I don't know. So if they come to us, it would almost seem like it would have to be in a voting capacity. I don't know.
Mark, do you have some input on that?
I didn't know what project you're talking about, but if it's a project, it usually goes to the CPAC.
Okay. And do we only Is it just a one meeting rule now?
I'm really not sure. I mean, I do the mining and I do plan check. I haven't been up with the CPAC. I know there's been some changes. I'm sure the clerk's office could answer that, or should be able to.
Yeah, so on this particular item that for the solar fields, the Barton solar fields, the way that this works, I'm not sure if this group is contacting a specific member and asking if they could come and meet in a public forum. And what you could do is work with Chris Pahuli and Supervisor Natoli, and they could get that agendized. And as far as the rule with the meetings, it's the continuation rule is what they're talking about on that. So, and that's really more project driven in terms of not holding up a project from an applicant and continuing it over more than once. So this might be a little bit different, but that would be the way, the channel that you'd want to go through to get this agendized for the Barton solar fields.
Yeah, as I understood it when they were talking to me, and Fred, they're destined to call you, but they were essentially telling me that they were coming, so they must be in the process of agendizing it on their own.
Okay, if you would like, I will follow up with Mr. Pahuli about this to see what the status is on that, and I'll also make a mention in the minutes for your meeting tonight.
Yeah, that's fine. And maybe if you find anything out, you just send us all an email. Let us know what's going on.
Absolutely.
I do have one suggestion on that. Why can't we have a great big conference building down there in Wilton that would easily space people out with masks to where we could meet instead of these phone things? Practice safe. I was going to say safe sex, but I blew that one. Safe distancing.
Fred, it's a schoolhouse.
But I mean, if we get 50 people in there, easily space the chairs out. We got plenty of room. Require masks, and the speakers could stand off to the side, and if they want to take their mask off to talk, then that's fine. I think, it would sure make things a lot easier. And so that's my request.
I would be in favor of that as well.
Yep.
May I respond to that, members of the board? So I just wanted to kind of give you an update in terms of where we're at. Right now, for us to do in-person meetings, we also have to allow virtual. So that means we would have to host a hybrid meeting, and we are currently working with Department of General Services to help in that process. It's not necessarily your CPAC. We have 14 CPACs all throughout the county, and we also have to make sure that we have internet access in order for us to do the hybrid piece. And so for us, it means that we have to have at least 2 to 3 extra staff folks to manage those meetings. And then for the PPE aspect, in terms of the social distancing and all of that, we recommend the social distancing, but as you are aware, that's really not a mandated requirement by the state order or public health officer for Sac County. So it gets a little problematic. We've been going through in-person hybrid meetings right now with the Board of Supervisors, and we're learning from those experiences how to be prepared, and we're working with the district offices. They've been very supportive to us in terms of what we're telling them that we need in order to have these meetings. So that's where we're at on that. It's not that we don't want to or we can't. We're just trying to identify the resources so that we could have the capability of being able to do the hybrid meeting for those folks who do not want to come to the meeting in person, and or if there was a member of a board who didn't want to come to the meeting in person, or staff. We're trying to get all of that technology set up the infrastructure, if you will, so that there's a way for everyone to participate in the meeting. And that's the direction that the county is moving in terms of these boards and commissions and making sure that everybody has a way to participate in the meeting. So we just need a little time. We have some equipment that's already been ordered. We're waiting for the equipment to arrive, and then we have to train our staff. And we're looking at sometime in October to be able to roll out those hybrid meetings. So that's kind of the status update on that. I just wanted to give you a little backdrop so you kind of know some of the challenges that our office is facing. And some of the other CPACs, we definitely will have security with us as well. And so we're in the process of getting that organized as well. So it probably wouldn't be out at the Cosumnes or Southeast or Delta CPAC meetings, but most definitely 100% at all the other meetings.
Thank you. Make a motion to end the meeting.
I'll second it, Fred.
Thanks, John.
And we're done with public comments and council member comments.
There are no public comments. I've been monitoring your public comments from the start of the meeting until now, and you have not received any public comments.
Okay. And no more staff updates? We're good on that?
Yes,
Mark?
I don't have any updates. Yeah, this is Mark. I have no updates.
Well, the motion to end the meeting, let's call it a day.
Okay, and your meeting is adjourned at 8:42 p.m.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.